Wrapping up the Pride of Detroit POD cast, and this is something new for us. I don't know how much I trust any of this. I think some of you guys are drinking in way too much goddamn Kool-Aid now. But we've got to give the people what they want, and the people have filled up our phone lines with one thing and one thing only: playoff talk, and some draft talk too. I know Jeremy doesn't want to do the draft talk stuff, but we were going to carve out a few minutes for that for a different reason. But let's start with the fact the Lions could potentially be in a scenario where if they keep racking up wins, even at 4-6, the NFC it could be wide open. And we're sitting here now in the aftermath of the Minnesota Vikings getting curb stomped by the Dallas Cowboys, which hurts it a little bit for one of those wild cards. But on the flip side, I'll just say it. I don't think the Lions are going to contend with the Vikings, barring a immaculate meltdown and running the table for the NFC North. That won't happen.
Right.
But let's talk some wild card situations, because right now, two of them at 7, I think now 8-4 for the Cowboys.
8-3.
No, 8-3, 8-3, excuse me. 8-3 and 7 for the Cowboys. They hold the first wild card. 7-4 to the Giants. Is that right? Or is it 7-3? 7-3 to Giants, excuse me. But then it starts to break down a little bit from there. The entire NFC South only has 5 wins. The Commanders are 6-5. San Francisco is 5-4. Jeremy.
Listen.
Jeremy.
If the 49ers lose tomorrow night to the Cardinals, they're 5-5.
It's the 49ers, though. People expect this to be the best team in the NFC.
Well, they're 5-4.
Like
yeah, exactly. They're not exactly playing like it. So they lose tomorrow night. The Lions are a game out of a playoff spot. Period. And that's in the hunt. That is the definition of in the hunt. And they got some things working in their favor. The thing that isn't working in their favor is that Washington is going streaking, but Lions beat Washington. They got the tiebreaker over Washington.
And they beat the Giants, too.
They beat the Giants now, too. Absolutely. So if the Giants go on a downward spiral, if they start losing all of those one-score games that they're winning, good news for the Lions. And the Lions have a 4-4 record in the conference. That's a big tiebreaker, and that's a pretty good record. They have a high divisional record at 2-1 right now. Things are working in their favor where, if they win, how many games? They got 7 games left. If they win 5 of those, they got a real chance, man. That puts them at 9-8. If they go 5-2 the rest of the way, a very, very real chance that is good enough to make the playoffs. And I'm not saying that they will, but we just talked about everything, right? Like, the defense is starting to come together. The offense is going to be getting some key pieces that'll bring it back, the passing game that has been missing for the past 2 months. Like, there's reason to think there's a chance here. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. A 1-6 team making the playoffs, by my count, has happened once, ever. And I'm not 100% certain on that, but I saw it in an article a couple years ago. May have changed since then. One team has ever done it. And are you going to be the one that bets on the Detroit Lions of all franchises to do that? Probably not. But I mean, okay, do we want to do the schedule thing and just look at the games and see what we feel about some of these games?
Let's do the most base level, just knuckle drag radio talk out there, going game by game on the schedule, because that's what we like to do here. I'm not even being sarcastic. This is something we're going to do. So right up the bat, Bills have opened as a 10-point favorite in Detroit. And Ryan spent our break encouraging people to basically gamble Lions plus 10.
Don't do that
in this game.
Don't do that, people.
100% put money on the Lions plus 10, but they're not going to win this football game.
Yeah.
I mean,
I understand the Bills have looked vulnerable lately, especially with their defensive side, with some of the injuries that piled up. But
10 points is a lot of points. That's a lot of points for a team that's on a 3-game winning streak.
Who's going to stop
Josh Allen is not
Stephon Diggs?
Yeah,
Jeff Okudah is out of this game. Who's going to stop Stephon Diggs?
I don't know, but I trust Aaron Glenn to try to figure it out. After 3 straight games like this, Jeremy, I think I'm going to trust Aaron Glenn to come up with a plan.
Here's the thing. In this 3-game winning streak, they have not faced a team with a good passing offense.
But the Bills can't really run the football.
I don't care.
They can throw the football. That runs the football really well.
Doesn't matter. They're going to throw the crap out of the same way the Dolphins did. We can't play this game and think that the defense is going to turn this around.
It's going to be a different test. I don't think they're going to get smoked. They didn't get smoked by the Dolphins.
They kind of did.
They didn't. Not really. They were up by 10 at halftime.
Okay, all right, fair, but
Yes,
the offense
they
isn't where it was then. Although they put up 30 this week, so I don't know. I'm just saying they're going to put up a lot of points.
They might, but I think the Lions will put up a lot of points too.
I hope so.
Like I think they will, and that's the place I'm at with them in terms of them making a playoff run. I think the Lions can make a playoff run so long as their offense continues to get healthier.
Yeah.
And they continue to put up points because here's the thing. You can say this about any team in the NFL. If you're consistently putting up 28, 29, 30 points a game, you're going to be in a lot of football games.
Sure.
You're going to be in a lot of football games. And I think that the Lions, if they add Jameson Williams,
they're only going to get like 3 games out of him.
They are, but it could be 3 really important games.
Yeah.
Well, let's keep going down that schedule because after you get over that hump with the Bills, you host the Jaguars.
Which we all kind of agree the Bills game is going to be a loss.
Yeah.
Right? But then they play the Jaguars, Chris.
The Jaguars are also a pass-heavy team, but Trevor Lawrence has been very inconsistent through the year. He's been susceptible to pass rush. They're kind of like, I would say, Ryan, they're a lot like the Bears minus that Trevor Lawrence can really give you the same kind of stuff Justin Fields can on the ground. Like their offensive line is no bueno.
Yeah,
so I think that's a very winnable game for the Lions at this point.
Yeah.
It's a game where they can be competitive, and like it could go either way, and that's the important thing I think of. Even just going into Thanksgiving, the Lions are 4-6. They're heading into a matchup with a team that is better than them for all intents and purposes. Should win the football game. They are playing with house money. We talked about this pre-stream, but like they are playing with house money. I think the Lions. We're going to get to the rest of their schedule, but I think they're going to win at least 2 to 3 more games.
But I think that number Jaguars probably has to be 6, though, right? Like that's the thing is like, I feel like a lot of these are going to be 50-50 ball games. We're looking at them now. And we're like, yes, they're going to have to win these close ones. And so
they're winning those games. Well, they're winning those close games.
They've won 2 of them. Yes.
Yeah.
They've also lost more than 2 of them.
Well, here's where it gets dicey after the Jaguars because it's a rematch with the Vikings at home. And I know they just got smoked by the Cowboys. Just absolutely. They came into that game with a like 30-some plus point differential, and they're leaving -2 for the season.
40-3.
40-3. Kirk Cousins just destroyed. But guess what? That's Kirk Cousins out of the 1 p.m. window. And there's been so many studies about that Kirk is like Cinderella. He turns into a goddamn pumpkin when he doesn't play at 1 p.m.
What you're saying is we have to start spamming NBC to make that the Sunday night game.
Flex that game. Flex that game right now.
Flex that game, please.
Flex that game right now. Yes. We need it flexed.
But that feels like a 50-50 game where I think how many...
Well, you already lost to the Vikings once. It's a different team. Like, it's hard for a team to sweep another team in season. It just statistically... It splits a lot of the time.
I mean,
it is. But
Bears saying that Dan Campbell is good against the division, right? Like he's 500, I think, against the division or close to it.
I think what's a tangible thing that you can feel with this is that if we had this discussion where we were prognosticating the schedule 3 weeks ago before the Packers game, like we're looking at this Viking game and being like, yeah, that's a loss,
right?
Like, you know what I mean? Like.
It will really. This game will really depend on the health of the team too. You need guys like Jeff Okudah to be healthy and ready to play for this.
100%. But I think like as soon as we're talking about this Vikings game at home, I think we're talking about 2 names. I think we're talking about Romeo Okwara, and I think we're talking about Jameson Williams, both playing.
That might be early for JMO, but it's close to when we'll see him.
Yeah.
I mean that Bills game. Jaguars game, we're into December. Yeah. Like I think it's reasonable to expect that. Especially, here's going to be the question though: do you push JMO?
If you start to get into the hunt,
well, let's talk about that when we get there.
Oh man, I don't know. That's a legitimate.
I still need to get through the
though.
schedule. You want me to get through the schedule?
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Fire through.
So right after that, back to the Meadowlands with the Jets.
Tougher
Zach
game
Wilson
than we
ain't
anticipated.
Yeah.
Right. Agreed.
I think that's a good matchup for Detroit, though. Honestly, I know it's at New York. We just won at New York, so that's not a big deal.
Been
Really,
there, done that.
really tough defensive team, right? And so low scoring game, but they're kind of a trash offense, and I feel like that plays to Detroit well.
Losing Brees Hall really hurt.
Like
You can rustle
losing
Zach
Brees Hall
Wilson.
really hurt.
Yeah, I trust this Lions offense to win a game against a good defense, rather than trusting a defense to take down
Stop
a good
offense.
Right.
Agreed.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I've been listening to the Dan Miller Lomas Brown radio broadcasts, and Dan was confused. He thought there was a flag on the field in the Meadowlands, and Lomas had to correct him. He was like, no, that's just a piece of trash.
Yeah, there was a lot of trash on the field. It was really weird.
You're in New York, Dan. Yeah. He said that. Anyway, so expect that again. Anyway, then after that is the Panthers, and I don't know how to read the Panthers. It feels like they've thrown in the towel on the season. 3-13 against Baltimore.
I mean, they're 3-8. They're pretty bad.
Yeah, they're bad.
They're bad.
They fired their coach. They've kind of thrown in the towel. Is Baker Mayfield still starting for them, Ryan?
Well, I think they want it to be PJ Walker.
The Baker Mayfield started this game, played the entire game. Yeah,
he did because PJ Walker was hurt, and I don't really know why the Panthers would want to win football games.
Here's
not
the other
saying
thing.
that they're going to intentionally tank, but I'm just saying like there's quite clearly two teams at the top of this draft class that want quarterbacks,
Look
and
at
it would be Houston and it would be Carolina.
I would say this. Look at how the Ravens beat them. They're big. They're kind of like the lesser version of the Giants in that they want to run through Donta Foreman, who has worked out in them in the past. He was held to 24 yards today by the Ravens.
Wow. If your football strategy is I'm going to win the football game through Donta Foreman, I hope the Lions can beat that team.
Yeah.
I really hope the Lions can beat that team.
I think this game is by far the most winnable. And if this team is serious about making a playoff run, that game shouldn't even be close.
You have to have that. Yeah. Hosting the Bears.
We own them.
I don't like that game. I'm sorry.
No,
I don't like playing the Bears at all. I feel like they got outplayed by the Bears last week and kind of got lucky.
I guess this is all building up to the fact that we're talking about Packers in Lambeau to end the year being an incredibly meaningful game. And that scares the shit out of me. That scares the absolute goddamn shit out of me.
It doesn't to me because the Packers throw it in week 18 when they're not in it. When even like
starting Jordan Love?
Yeah. Like I think Jordan Love will probably start that game. Honestly. Like I don't think the Packers are going to be in it. And I don't like the Lions beat the shit out of the backup. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because they just barely beat the backups last year. But like, I don't want to say the Packers throw in week 18, but they don't try. And so I think that's a win. I think that's a win. I think the Panthers are a win. And I basically view almost everything else as a 50-50 except the Bills as a loss.
Which means that like the Lions could finish with 8 wins. Sure.
No, they can get to 9 for sure. So like, I mean,
9?
let's do the math. They're at 4. There's 7 games left. I say they win 2 more. They should win 2 more for sure.
That's 6.
That's 6. They should lose 1. So that makes them what, 6 and 7?
Yep.
With how many games
left? 9 wins
4?
is enough for 9 wins is, but the point is that 9 wins is more than enough for a wild card in the NFC this year.
Sure. So I have them at 6 and 7. Those 4 games that are 50-50, if they split them, they're at 8 and 9, which means they don't. In my opinion, I don't think 8 and 9 makes it.
No,
but if they
9 and 8 does.
9 and 8 does. So if they split those 50, if they go 3 and 1 in those 50-50 games, playoffs. So listen, I'm willing to now talk about the playoffs like it's a legit possibility because I think it is a legit possibility. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Close very quickly. That door can close very quickly,
but not next week. Let's not close it. If the Lions lose
this week
and they're 4 and 7, don't give up.
And they're going to need some help too. They're going to need some of these teams that are continuing to struggle. They need to continue to struggle. The Commanders need to struggle.
Yep.
The
and some
Falcons
of these teams are going
to struggle. The 49ers need to struggle.
The Giants, the Cowboys, and Washington are all in the wild card race. Those teams are going to beat up on each other a little bit.
They're going to cannibalize each other.
Like the entire NFC East's divisional schedule is completely backloaded. Completely backloaded.
The other thing I want to
see themselves twice in 3 weeks.
The last thing I want to say to Jeremy's point is that you're looking at a team that's won 4 football games so far, They're 3 wins away from getting 7. And I want to say that if you are somebody who is coming into the season and you were expecting anything more than 7 wins from this team, you are being optimistic. So that's why I feel like 7 is a really good baseline. If the Lions win 7 football games, you should feel really good about
that was the Vegas over. That was the Vegas over to start the year.
You should feel really good about the trajectory of this football team. And not only that, you're looking at a Rams pick that's going to be really, really good. Like, I think we've come to the determination that, like, this is going to be a top 6 pick at worst.
Yeah.
That was where I was going to backload this segment, in that Cooper Kupp came out the news before the Rams game today that Cooper Kupp is going to miss another 6 to 8 weeks, almost virtually guaranteeing he's shut down for the season, unless they're in playoff consideration. Now, they're not going to be in playoff consideration because they just lost to the Saints to make it a 4-game skid, 3-7, and Stafford just came back from concussion, and he just went back into concussion protocol.
Not good.
They're in trouble.
That offensive line is made of paper mache.
And that defense,
I feel bad for him. It's like watching 2009 Lions play.
The defense sucks too. Like, this is just a bad football team. It's not them underperforming. It's not them losing close games. They're a bad football team. They came into this week 28th in DVOA. And that's 27th on offense, 15th on defense. With all those superstars on defense, they're 15th.
They are minus 59 in their point differential. That is, yes, I just confirmed, that is the worst in the NFC. They have the worst. That is the worst in the NFC, and there's only 2 teams in the rest of the NFL that have a worse point differential. The Steelers, which is very funny, and the Texans.
They're not turning it around.
No.
It's not happening.
And like even if Stafford has to miss time, their backup quarterback, Walford, is out too. So they have to go 3rd string. Do you guys even know who the 3rd string quarterback for the Rams is?
Bryce Perkins.
How do you know that?
I can't confirm. It is Bryce Perkins. He did play in this game. Because he did play in this game against the Saints.
Look him up too, Jeremy.
Okay.
Anyways.
Your type. Got it. But yeah, do we want to look at I was just going to look at the Rams schedule. Well, let's just point out some important games.
They're playing the
Chiefs next week. Seahawks twice.
Oh, okay.
Packers,
the division leader.
They have to play in Lambeau at night on Monday Night Football.
They have to face the Raiders, who, I mean, that could be winnable for them, but
Sure.
The Raiders did get off the schneid and beat the Broncos here.
Listen, they have some.
They have to play
games.
the Broncos.
Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers are their winnable games. But
let's say they win 2 out of those 3.
That's probably the only games they're winning. So that means they're finishing 5-12.
I don't even think they're winning those games.
But I feel like that's best case scenario for them.
Right.
That is best case. This is a wholly broken team. I say that with no malice. I say that trying to be as neutral and national outlook as I can. It is a completely broken team right now.
5-12. You're talking about a top 6, top 7 draft pick.
Yeah, I think they'll be 4-13.
Here's the thing I want to say about this real quick is that for any Lions fan right now, if you're caught up on the idea that not tanking is a detriment to this football team. If you think that the Lions not accumulating losses is a bad thing, this should be exhibit A for why you can enjoy the Lions winning football games this year, is because the Rams are bad. Like, take solace, take absolute pleasure in the fact that the Rams are losing football games and that you're going to get a top draft pick. And it might be, here's the thing, we're saying like the Rams pick is going to be no worse than 5 or 6. Like, it could be as good as like 2 or 3.
It's not just that. Can I just point out the teams that are ahead of them right now in the draft order? Because Chicago will get better. Chicago will not be like in front of them in the draft order. They'll pick up some wins. Vegas, kind of a bit of a wild card, and Denver, kind of a bit of wild card. Carolina and Houston, I guaranteed those will be in front of the Rams, but the others, I can't say that for. Like, the Rams could very well be giving you like a top 5 pick. And that's like, you take advantage of that this year. You take advantage of that to get either to package that to get something that is going to define your franchise forever. You get that to trade down and just keep loading up on a lot of talent. I don't know if they'd have enough on a Jeremy. I know Jeremy's smiling, but I'm realizing now they've also got the Minnesota pick. That's a lot to sign. I don't know if they'd be able to do that, but still the point is you've got flexibility all around this year. You identify critical points on this team. You identify what you need to build for the future, not just for the next couple of years, but for the fact that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell got 6-year deals last year. Identify and have generational and set something up for the long haul here. Everything's coming up Lions right now.
I was just going to say the same thing. Like, this season is turning out to be everything that I personally wanted it to be, which is show improvement as the season goes on, get your young players a ton of playing time so that they develop, and somehow end with a top draft pick too, so that maybe you get your franchise quarterback. Like, everything is coming up exactly as we wanted. Maybe not exactly as we expected it to do. Obviously, a 1-6 start was not ideal. Obviously, getting that high draft pick from the Rams was not at all something that we were expecting. But this team is in just the position it should be right now.
And I'm not a believer in kicking the can down the road on the quarterback for next year. Don't get distracted by Williams and May. I know there's risks on all these guys, but at some point, we've talked about this before. To get ahead in the NFL now, you have to have a quarterback under a rookie contract. You got to roll the bones at some point. It doesn't need to be young. It doesn't even need to be in the first round. It doesn't need to be Stroud. It doesn't need to be at the top 5. It doesn't need to be the Rams pick, but you need to invest somewhere for a developmental project that will, because you'll have Goff on regardless next year, but you kind of need to play that game at this point.
I don't know when the last time was that I felt like the Lions could have their cake and eat it too.
This feels like an upward trajectory for the entire franchise. It does. And it's hard to say that's just Kool-Aid talking.
Okay. And that might be the case, but it's November 20th and the Lions are in this position right now. Things could go completely sideways. The Lions could maybe win like one more game the rest of the year, and it might turn out to be a complete disaster. But even if it does, the Lions will have 2 really high draft picks.
Yeah,
you know what
that's
I mean?
the thing.
Like,
this is house money. We're chipping in.
That's the worst thing that can happen is that the Lions will have like 2 picks in the top like 7 or 8. Oh man, I'm so upset about that.
Right? And I think you bring a good point. Like, it's November, it's late November, and we're able to sip Kool-Aid. When's the last time we were able to do that was when the Lions fired Matt Patricia the day after or a couple days after Thanksgiving. Like, that's the last time a Lions fan could smile when there's snow on the ground.